Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got our normal Thursday lineup with Brent Beaird, a college football analyst. Here in just a second, we'll have Mike Ridaught talking high school sports. They've all wrapped up now. High school football teams are starting their off-season conditioning programs, getting ready for August. Tonight, the NBA Finals kicks off, and then Gator softball, 7 o'clock against Oregon State. So got some stuff to watch on TV this evening. Looking forward to that. But let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our college football analyst and our Heisman Trophy voter, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, I'm doing well, thanks, and glad you had a good birthday this week, by the way. I also wanted to mention, living here in Clay County, the Middleburg softball team won the state title last week, so they are celebrating at their stadium tonight, so that should be a lot of fun. And the Clay High softball team was in the semifinals. Unfortunately for them, they lost, or there would have been 2 Clay County high schools playing for the state title. But again, we are always glad to be on with you. We've got Lindy's National Magazine Young Man, and obviously the eyes of the country are on Destin with any news that comes out as far as the SEC meetings this week.
Yeah, let's talk about Lindy's. I know, Brent, you've been camping out at Publix waiting for that to show up. They came out with their top 25, but they also broke down the East and the West. I don't know if the Gator fans will be too excited what Lindy's thinks about the Gators going into the season.
No, and look, your top 25, I won't go into all of them, but your top 5 pretty much is the same thing that you got in Athlon. It's Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, and Texas A&M, which is the same in both, and probably will be the same when the AP poll comes out in August. As far as Lindy's, for the ACC, they've got Clemson winning the Atlantic, and then Miami winning the Coastal, which is interesting. In the SEC, Georgia, Bama repeat, and then the East, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, Missouri, and Vandy. In the West, Bama, A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss, LSU, Mississippi State, and Auburn. So we will wait to see what Athlon has got, and certainly we'll have that next week.
Yeah, so Lindy's has the Gators finishing 4th in the SEC East. Let's hope they are wrong. Andy asked here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law. Brett, who do you think will be a tougher matchup for the Gators this year? Kentucky at home or Tennessee on the road?
Well, I would say Kentucky, because Kentucky has I think, a better defense and a better line of scrimmage than Tennessee does. Now, Josh Heupel did what he needed to do last year. They were fun to watch. They scored a lot of points. And this year they've got to improve their line of scrimmage and defense if they want to compete in the East. So, he's kind of taken the right step at the right time, but I still think Kentucky is really good. Athlon's got them at 21, and Lindy's has Kentucky at 24, so they are a top 25 team. Tennessee's not quite there yet, but Kentucky is. Will Levis coming back. Chris Rodriguez in the backfield will certainly help them. But and look, Tennessee's on the way, but Kentucky's there now.
We got a text on the Titan MR text line, and it was from yesterday, and I missed it. It's from Tommy in Savannah. We had a little debate going on about the enrollment at Liberty University. He says, Wikipedia says Liberty has 90,000 students, 15,000 is residential programs, and 80,000 online courses. Appreciate the text there, Tommy. Brent, we got a lot of TV games. We know about Florida, Utah, but the SEC's come out with their first couple of weeks, first 3 weeks of the TV schedule. Tons of games on TV.
Yeah. Now, in case people may have missed this, in week 0, which is August 27th, Vanderbilt and Hawaii on the CBS. This is not your main CBS channel, but it's the CBS Sports Channel. That's a 10:30 kick, Shane. How about that? So you and I will probably need a nap sometime during the day before we watch that one. And also on week 0, Florida State plays Duquesne. Then in the second week, Florida State plays LSU on Sunday night of Labor Day. Now, we won't go into all these games, but just to say, on the first Thursday night, which is September 1st, Ball State's at Tennessee and Louisiana Tech's at Missouri. So we will have a couple of SEC games on that first Thursday night. Sneaky good game on September the 3rd, Cincinnati at Arkansas. Arkansas actually goes to BYU later on in the year, and as Shane knows, that is no cupcake winning over there, is it, Shane?
No, and Arkansas, it seems like every year, Brent, when they rank, the toughest schedules in the country, Arkansas is always, number 1, 2, or 3. And it's going to get even more difficult for Arkansas once OU and Texas roll into the league. But, yeah, Arkansas, their schedule is brutal this year.
It is. Yes, no doubt. I mean, very few schools will schedule not 1 but 2 really strong out-of-conference games, and Arkansas deserves a lot of credit for being able to do that. And another game I wanted to mention real quick that is going to be a lot of fun is on September the 17th. Now, Georgia is at South Carolina. That's a noon game. Boy, that ought to be toasty up there. Mercy. But you've got CBS starts off that weekend, okay? Which is kind of similar to, you remember, Shane, what they used to do? They used to not start because of the U.S. Open tennis until the 3rd week. Well, they're not starting again this year till the 3rd week as far as SEC games. But the last game of the day on the 17th, Miami at Texas A&M is the ESPN 9 o'clock game. So that's a sweet game to kind of wrap your mind around to end the day on that one.
And that's week 3, you said, Miami, Texas A&M?
Yes. Yeah, so on September 17th.
Where do the Gators play week 3? We're at home, right? We're playing at like 7 o'clock that day. Oh, here it is.
South Florida on the SEC network, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, so I'll get to watch a little bit of that before we go on air. Brent, got a question here brought to you by Mellon Law on Facebook Live. Chris asks, Brent, do you buy the hype on Will Levis at Kentucky?
Well, here's the deal with Levis. I think Levis is a pretty good quarterback. Levis's problem is, and Shane can deal with this, is he has a tendency to throw too many interceptions. He started off well last year. About mid-season, the interception bug got to him, and toward the end of the year, he got better. So, and Shane and I talk about this every week, virtually last year during the season, is he's got to quit giving the ball away. He's a bit of a gunslinger, so he's going to take some chances, but that's something that's got to be corrected. Shane, is that unusual for a quarterback to start off well, then they figure him out, and then he hopefully can improve by the end of the year?
No, I mean, it's interesting because a lot of those NFL guys have him as a, top 5, top 10 pick.
Right.
He's got the ability. There's no question. And he played well at times last year. I just don't know. I haven't seen enough of him to think if he's going to be that good of a player. But He's that guy with the stature, the arm strength, all the measurables that people like. He has
Right.
them. He's got good mobility. Now, I've talked about it countless hours on this show. There's more to playing quarterback than all that crap I just mentioned.
Yes.
So I think, though, for Kentucky to maybe take that step, we get the hype every year at SEC Media Days about Kentucky, and then they start out hot and they lose a couple games they're not supposed to lose. But for Kentucky to have the year they want to have and maybe be the second best team in the SEC East, he's got to play well this year for sure. Another question for you here, Brent, from John, brought to you by Melvin Law. It says, Brent, what's your take on FSU LSU? Norvell will be in his third year, and you have Brian Kelly and his staff in their first year.
Well, LSU just has better athletes right now than FSU. I was talking to an FSU source just a couple of days ago about this, and it's going to be a really attractive game. It's in New Orleans, and it's on Sunday night, so that's going to make it a lot of fun. I think FSU can keep up with them for a while, but at some point in games like this, your line of scrimmage takes over, and people may forget that, LSU lost a lot of people, but they're going to be very good. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Could be Miles Brennan or a host of others. The Embry kid comes back. Boutte comes back. And they're going to have a decent line of scrimmage. They've just recruited too well not to do that. So unless they make a lot of mistakes, I think they will win the game. I do think FSU is going to be better. Now, I also talked to the source about if he has a rough year when they fire him, and he said the thought process with Norvell is you kind of know what the bottom's going to be, but you don't know what the top's going to be. Meaning is how good could they end up being? So right now, I'm curious what you think about this, Shane. Right now, I think because LSU has the better roster at this point that they will find a way, and that will be Brian Kelly's opener to win the game. But I certainly think FSU can be in it. Hard to say how long, but I do think FSU will be better. They've just got to win their 50-50 games this year.
Yeah, I think LSU is going to win that game easily, quite honestly. As you said, I just think athletic-wise, the rosters aren't even close when it comes to a talent standpoint. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office team is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Speaking with Brent Beaird, our college football analyst on the Titan MR hotline. We got a text here, Brent, on the Titan MR text line from Donnie. He says, is there a preseason top 3 Heisman list? I know they have odds out in Vegas. If I'm making a preseason top 3 list, me personally, I'm not a Heisman voter, but you are. Mine would be Bryce Young, Will Anderson, and C.J. Stroud.
I can't disagree with that. I think that's probably going to be that's what you'll see within the early Heisman odds. That those guys will be up there. I would agree with that. I mean, we just talked about Will Levis. You'll have some guys like that listed on some of these lists because let's be honest, you're going to have some people in the list just have a list. I don't think Levis is as good as the guy Shane mentioned, but there's no doubt that's your 3. And look, the guy in there who would get a lot of publicity toward it is Will Anderson after the year he had last year.
Yeah, and I'd also throw Caleb Williams in from USC.
Yes.
I think he's going to put up huge numbers out there. All right, Brent, let's move to Destin, Florida. Obviously, it's been a big week there. The big story, I think, coming out of there is the SEC scheduling once OU and Texas join us. First question for you. I personally thought that Texas and OU would join the conference way before 2025. I just thought they'd write the check and get it done. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
I'm surprised about that too. They frankly should have gone ahead and gone. There's a lot of hurt feelings in the conference because of them leaving, and as you can imagine, when those teams go on the road, they're not well received. They weren't in the first place, but now it even makes it worse. So now, what's interesting too, there's been a lot of talk that Texas and OU are involved with the discussion with what to do with the schedule because, frankly, and in fairness, they're going to be a part of the league, but because they're not a part of the league, they can't vote. I don't understand why there aren't representatives from both teams at media days. And maybe there are, we just don't know it, but they have said in several articles that they're not being represented at this point. So I'm really wondering, and I think, Shane, if something is going to happen with this and them come over before 2025, that we may hear something about that before the end of the summer. And frankly, for everyone involved here, they need to make some decisions as far as when this is going to be in order to really start working on these schedules, and that's going to be extremely important over the next few months.
Yes, and basically they've pretty much said the whole talk was about these different pods. Well, that's been thrown out the window. It looks like they're going to go to this 3-6 model where you have 3 permanent opponents, I believe, and then the other 6 rotate every couple of years. Is that what you hear, and is that what you think will happen?
Well, one of the most important decisions to come out of this meeting may be to decide, are they going to stay at 8 or are they going to 9 conference games? Well, they've talked about this since Shane and I were children, frankly, but frankly, they're closer to this than they ever have been because they've got to make a decision about this on a lot of levels. And this is a lot more complicated than it seems, but that may be what they decide. We don't know yet. Today's very important, and so it's tomorrow. Are they going to vote on this, actually? And Sankey said he wasn't ready to have the conference vote on this yet. Now, again, the ultimate decision makers, we can never forget this, are the presidents. And the presidents are in Destin, too, along with the athletic directors. So they've got a full complement of SEC people who were there. So what they're debating is the fact of, do we stay at 8? That's what we're comfortable with. Or do we go with 9? And if you go with 9, television would love to see 9 because, frankly, you would get better games. You would have let's just say, for instance, you would have let's just say Florida. Florida may be playing Arkansas instead of playing Mercer. So that would go over well with the fan base with that. So the upper echelon of the league really kind of wants 9, the kind of the middle of the pack down to the bottom of the league. They want to stay with 8 because they know if they go to 9, that might be another loss for them. So, but another thing, I mean, there's a bunch of reasons for going to 9. TV, you make your fans happy, and at some point, the scheduling that Shane's talking about is, if you go to 8, what you're going to do is to keep one permanent opponent and then have the rest of them kind of revolve on the schedule, which means that Florida would probably obviously keep Georgia, and then the rest of the schedule would go around. What they're trying to do too is they're trying to have a situation where if you're a freshman at Florida and you're 4 years at Florida, that you will play every team in the conference or close to it, instead of what we've got now, Shane, which is Alabama coming to Gainesville once every 10 years, and then Georgia is going to A&M in the next few months, and that will be the first time since A&M's joined the conference that Georgia's going to A&M, and they're trying to stop that.
Yeah. Dan says on Facebook Live, will they have the top 2 records go to the championship game instead of division? Yes. So it'd be like how the Big 12 is.
Yes.
Whoever has the top 2 records will go to Atlanta. Now, Brent, let me ask you this. I don't know, when they're talking about all this expansion and they're talking about doing SEC doing their own little playoff and stuff, even when expansion comes, I don't think there's any way the SEC will agree to get rid of the SEC title game in Atlanta. I know it's way above all the other championship games, but the money that place makes and the atmosphere, I have said multiple times, I've been to Super Bowls. I have been to national championship football games. There is no other atmosphere like the SEC championship game in Atlanta. I hope they never get rid of it. Do you ever see them getting rid of it?
No. It just makes too much money. People need to Google that when they have time. The amount of money for one game is astronomical. Frankly, I mean it's. I don't see that ever happening. Now, Sankey mentioned before the meetings that, or the media leaked this report about the SEC possibly having their own playoff. Well, Sankey said at the meetings this week that he did not say that as a threat against other conferences, that they needed to get in line. And he said right now that's kind of still in the folder, so I don't think anything's going to come out of the meetings this week about that. But Sankey's pretty calculating in what he says, so I think he may have wanted to get that out there just for people to be aware of it. But no, Shane, I'm with you on that. And it is, if people have never been to an SEC championship game, whether you got a dog in the hunt or not, as they say, you owe it to yourself to go, because Shane is correct. It's in the perfect venue in Atlanta, in the Mercedes Dome, and I don't think. And basically, they talked yesterday about that the game will never leave Atlanta, and now they're talking about that the basketball tournament for the SEC is pretty much permanently in Nashville.
Makes sense.
That's where they're going to be.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been when Florida's played in Atlanta. I've been when Florida was not there, and I still get chills just pregame, just the entire atmosphere is so great. Text here on the Titan MR text line. Is the hot topic in Destin Jimbo and Saban spat, or has that died down? It's pretty much died down, right?
Yeah, yes. I can tell you the athletic directors were very embarrassed about this, and without belaboring the point here, they basically they talked to the coaches, said they don't want any more of this to get out in the public. They've got ways to deal with it internally. So, no, there has been nothing about that. Jimbo had his press conference yesterday, and he repeated 3 times when asked about it, we have moved on. So that's the end of it.
How much talk there? I haven't really, I've followed Feinbaum's show a little bit, and I've tried to keep up on Twitter what's going on in Destin. Has there been a whole lot of talk about the NIL nonsense among the SEC folks?
Yes, there has been. This is one of those things they're trying to deal with in some of their meetings. They've got a lot of different meetings on a lot of different levels with the athletic directors, the coaches, with the presidents, and so forth. They are determined that they're going to try to do something with NIL. Now, what does that mean, and how soon will that be? We really don't know. But Sankey again mentioned trying to go through Congress to get something, shall we say, universally done. But everyone has talked about, who has ever had a microphone in front of them at the meeting this week, about how they've got to get control of it because it's out of control right now, and what that means is certainly yet to be determined.
That is so true. Brent, before we let you go, we talked a lot about a bunch of stuff. Anything else you want to touch on? Any other nuggets you got?
There's not a whole lot of team stuff this week, basically because of the meetings in Destin have controlled basically everything right now. There's a lot of recruiting going on. I won't go into names, but this is one of the bigger weekends. Arch Manning is at Georgia. People just want to know that. He's coming to Auburn. I'm sorry, not Auburn, but he's coming to Alabama within the next few weeks. I thought this was kind of a fun note. Arkansas is going to open up the 2025 season against Missouri State. Well, the coach at Missouri State's Bobby Petrino.
Oh boy!
So they'll everybody will have a lot of fun with that when that comes out. Frankly, so the more talk, and Shane can talk more about this. The new football building in Florida opening sometime in the next few weeks. Georgia, some talk about the Georgia-Florida game. That a lot of the principals obviously want to keep it in Jacksonville. We certainly want to see that too. Negotiations. They're playing here obviously this year, next year, 2023, and they're hoping to get more clarity on what they want to do with that. Also, and by the way, Georgia plays Oklahoma next year. And with Oklahoma and Texas coming to the league, there's been a little bit of talk about, will that game be played or will that game be on hold? So don't know where that's going to go, but that kind of came up this week too. At South Carolina, Jalen Brooks is back. He's a wide receiver. He had been away from the team since October. Why, we don't know, but he's back now. So, but the good thing about it is, Shane, starting next week after the meetings, hopefully we'll talk more about what's happening on the field more than off the field.
No doubt. Speaking of that, Chris says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law, Lane Kiffin apparently was upset that the hotel in Destin isn't dog friendly. He had his new little lab. I don't know if you saw that all over Twitter.
Yeah.
But I think, you would have thought Lane would have checked with him first before he flew down there with the dog to see if the hotel was dog friendly. So, Brent, one last thing, because there's always been this talk about the Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville.
Right.
And, you hear these coaches, I guess, the ones talking about how with them playing in Jacksonville, it takes away a home game for recruiting, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy that nonsense. Hell, Georgia's got the #1 recruiting class in America. That has no bearing on playing a game in Jacksonville.
It doesn't. But Georgia's had that excuse for years, and I've said the same thing. Look, Georgia's either had a #1, #2, or #3 class in the last 5 years. So obviously, if they played it in Athens, it wouldn't make any difference. Now, look, I get why they want to have the game in Athens, and I do wonder, Shane, if eventually they come up with some kind of a situation where they rotated between Gainesville and Athens and Jacksonville. We just don't know. I'm with you. I hope it stays here forever, frankly. But I would agree. That game has very little of any bearing on what happens in recruiting, and I would say virtually none.
One last thing here, Dan brings up a good point on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law. You're referring to OU and Georgia supposed to be playing next year. Not sure if that game will be played. Well, Texas is on Florida's future schedule. I don't know what year. I don't have it in front of me, but I wonder how they're going to look at that game if Texas isn't in the conference yet?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, you would think logically that since they're not in the conference, that it would still be an out-of-conference game and that they would play it. I mean, there may be something that because them coming in, the schedule makers have to do something different. That's going to be fascinating to see. But what I do hope, Shane, is that they come out of the meetings tomorrow, besides carrying a big check home, with some decisions and with some dates as far as when some of this stuff is going to get going, because frankly, that would help everybody, would it not?
So true. Brent, great stuff as always. We could go for hours with all your info you got. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend.
Good. Can't wait, bud. Take care.
Yep, that's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Tight No More Hotline. And take a quick time out, come back. We're going to get to the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup with our good friend Mike Ridaught. Give us a recap on the end of high school athletics and looking forward to high school football. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Weeby Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Ironwood Golf Course, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate, with premium brands like Bass Pro Shops, Dave & Buster's, Regal Cinemas, Nike, Palmetto Moon, Medici's, and the HBC's restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, where every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 2:30 you can get the hottest brunch in town. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go back to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined by Mike Ridaught, who does a tremendous job for Main Street Daily News and the PrepZone.com covering high school sports. Good morning, Mike. How are you, buddy?
Hey, good morning, Shane. Doing a little bit better now that we have slowed down some. We haven't stopped yet, but, you know, it was a fun month of May with, I had junior college softball and baseball stuff going on top of all the high school stuff. We had a lot of teams from our area make their first ever Final Four appearance in softball and baseball. So all in all, even though no state champions for teams in the Main Street Daily News coverage area, like I said, we had a lot of teams that got to their first ever Final Four. So all in all, pretty good year.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with softball real quick. I know Dixie County, it's not Dixie County, but Fort White lost a heartbreaker for the state title.
They did, but you mentioned Dixie County. Dixie County played Fort White. I actually went down to Claremont last week and broadcast that state semifinal game. It was the first Final Four in program history for both Fort White and Dixie County. And in that state championship game, Fort White, give them credit because they were down 5-0. It looked like they were done. But they battled back, and they ended up scoring 5 runs to tie it. They were down 5-0, tied the game, and then unfortunately they lose it in the bottom of the 6th inning. But a great year for Fort White. They've got kind of a co-head coach thing, husband and wife team that coach that team, the Padgetts. But state runner-up finish, highest finish ever in Fort White history. But they came up just a little bit short to Jay High School, which actually won its first ever state softball championship. So good year for both Dixie County and Fort White, getting to the state semifinals for the first time in school history. Union County had a pretty good year. They were region finalists this year, but all in all, pretty good year for those two programs that I mentioned making their first ever Final Four.
John says on Facebook Live, Mike, keep an eye on Liberty County softball next year. They have no seniors and everyone's coming back. Andy asked here.
Got a girl. Yeah, I was just going to say they've got a girl in Elizabeth Arnold who was only a junior. She'll be a senior next year, and I know she batted over 500 and had like 12 doubles, 8 home runs, something like that. I do remember her. So I think Liberty County will be a team to watch next year.
Where is Liberty County?
Bristol. Oh, it's kind of heading in the direction of the Panhandle, but not quite that far.
Gotcha. Andy has a question for you here, brought to you by Meldon Law. He says, Mike, with all your great coverage of high school sports this spring, was there an athlete or two that you saw that you think are, quote, can't miss major college stars?
Well, I think if we go all the way back to football season, I have to consider the guy right here in our backyard, Creed Whittemore, who recently, in the last few weeks, I guess, made his commitment to be a Gator. He's been phenomenal. And the fact that he still has another year at Buchholz, he just led them all the way to the state semifinals. They lost to nationally ranked St. Thomas Aquinas out of Fort Lauderdale. But I think that you'd have to start with Creed Whittemore being among the best players that I've seen this year because he was so consistent too. I was thinking back about, baseball and softball season, who might be the best player that I saw this year. I never really saw, now maybe I just didn't see them enough, but I never saw the consistency that I saw with Creed Whittemore. Game in and game out, he was always the same guy. I would definitely have to start with Creed, number one. There's some guys in basketball that were pretty good. There was a kid from Williston High School that was just a freshman that was really, really good. I'm really looking at seeing how well he develops. His name escapes me now. But, as far as baseball and softball, there were some good players in the area. We go back to softball for a moment, and, I think of Bria Hinkle for Dixie County. She had a sub-1 ERA this year. She batted, like 450 this season. She's only a junior. She's going to come back next year. She's got a chance to get them back to the Final Four, maybe win it with that experience. But then also I was really impressed with Cadence Compton. She's only a freshman. She had a 1.66 ERA this season, batted close to 400, another good player. In baseball, Columbia has a player that's an FSU commit in Hayden Dustinson. He's going to be back next year. He batted close to 375 this season. So some of the guys that kind of stick out that I've seen, Dylan Evans had a good year at Santa Fe High School, pitcher who went 9-0 for them. Just some of the names I'm thinking of here off the top of my head.
I was going to ask you, Mike, you've been covering high school sports for a long time, but it seems like to me,
long time.
a long time. Would you agree that the game of softball has grown the most of any sport, like in a fast way? It just seems like to me, Tim Walton's done a tremendous job with the Gators. The SEC has come a long ways in softball, but it used to be so many basically everybody coming from out west to play the game. You know, if you look at the Florida roster now, tons of girls from Georgia, tons of girls from Florida. But because you keep talking about you got this ninth grade pitcher, you got this freshman pitcher. It just seems like girls are getting really involved and really enjoying playing softball.
Well, I think it's number one for Florida, the Sunshine State. We had that luxury where they can play year round. So, they're playing, whether it be, camps or, the opportunity to compete right after the season is over. They start playing in. It's a year-round sport. So I think that's why we see softball and baseball here in the Sunshine State, do so well. But I think, from a fastest growing sports standpoint, you might even want to consider a sport like, I would say maybe even soccer. Soccer has really kind of taken off in this area. But yeah, for sure, softball has been big. And I think that's why, because these girls and guys, they play year round.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending, right? Helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. A few more minutes with Mike Ridaught here from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News, talking high school sports. Before you came on the air, you were talking about y'all are getting ready to vote on the all-area softball and baseball teams. Tell us briefly how that goes about. Is it just you guys that are broadcasting? Do y'all have coaches on the panel? How does that work?
We've kind of done it different ways. Last year, we had kind of and I don't know if we did it for baseball and softball this way last year, but I know we did it this way for basketball and football. We had a panel of coaches that would make their selections. Well, we tweaked it a bit this year because we didn't feel like we were being well represented by all the players in the area, in our coverage area. Maybe these coaches haven't played against certain kids, that we might be leaving out. So we changed it and decided to go ahead and just send out nomination forms to every single coach. But we asked all of these coaches, hey, when you vote for kids on your team, also vote for kids that you played against. If you, any guys or girls that you can remember that you played against that kind of stood out, put them down too. So then we take all of those nominations, we take all of the stats that we have, we take our knowledge of games that we've seen, because a guy by the name of CJ Gish has been to way more games than I have, which is hard to believe when you consider I've probably been to, just for baseball, softball season, I probably went to at least 25 games this year. And he went to more games because he's our photographer. So he's taking photos. So he's getting real familiar. So we've included him as a part of the voting process because he's seen a lot more players probably than I have based on the number of games that he's attended, all the different teams in our area. Because he goes to every single school in our coverage area. He goes to every single one of those schools and takes pictures. So we're getting together tonight, myself, Marty Paulman, who just got back from broadcasting the FHSA softball finals for the NFHS network. Marty and I obviously have a pretty good feel for the athletes in our area. And then CJ, Marty, and I will start breaking that down, going over the nominations, going over the stats. It's a tough job because we may leave a deserving player off, but it may be just a little bit, from a batting average standpoint, for example, you may be talking about somebody that's batting 375 versus someone batting 350 that we may leave off at 350 as an honorable mention. So it's a very tough job. And I think overall we do a pretty good job with it, because we do put a lot of effort into it.
We got a Facebook Live here brought to you by Melvin Law. It's from Andy. I can answer this question. He says, Mike, how did Newberry manage to land Travis Mcgriff and Reed Fleming on their coaching staff? Is there a story behind that? Yeah, both their kids are going to be freshmen there next year. Also, Shane, I learned because I wrote a story about this at Main Street Daily News. Ed Johnson, their head coach, let me know that those two coaches, while they're going to be new to the varsity staff, Travis and Reed have also been coaching their middle school programs, yes, and have already been doing pretty well. So they were already there. But yeah, it'll be interesting because Newberry, and again, I wrote about this in my article.
last year, even though Newberry made the playoffs and then they lost, they finished with a 5-6 record, but they did make the playoffs based on their strength of schedule. But they were outscored 337 to 217. So you would hope that a guy like Mcgriff will help turn that offense around a little bit. You hope a guy like Reed will help shore up that defense a little bit. Newberry will open up the regular season against rival Santa Fe. So I'm looking forward to seeing those two guys a part of that staff.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if, being a 1A school, their kids may, as freshmen, may be able to play on the varsity. We got a text on the Titan MR text line from John. His question, basically, I'm going to paraphrase here. It's kind of long-winded. He just wants to know, Mike, in your discussions with high school football coaches, do most of them like the new reclassifications?
I think that still remains to be seen because, we understand why the FHSA is doing it, tweaking it again to try to give us the most competitiveness. I was just talking about this last night that I don't like it because I'm going to have to relearn all these suburban and there's just so much, once you get used to the 1A, 2A, 3A kind of a thing, then it gets changed and then you got to relearn it all. So, but I think as far as play on the field, I haven't heard anything negative yet, but I think there is, there might be some trepidation heading into the year. We'll see how it works out. But again, because they are trying to make it, as competitive as possible, you're probably going to have it on both sides. Somebody's going to complain about it. Somebody's going to like it. But until we start playing, I don't know if I can accurately answer that yet because I haven't really heard anything too negative yet.
Yeah. Mike, good stuff as always. Let everybody know how they can check out the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News.
Yeah, in fact, at the PrepZone.com, we will be releasing in the next couple of days our final softball rankings. We ranked the top 20 high school softball teams across 26 counties. Deltona could be our number one team. However, a shout out to Middleburg. How about this, Shane? The Middleburg Broncos softball team won 2 games at the state tournament on 1 hit.
Oh God!
Against Naples. Against Naples, the girl threw a no-hitter and they lost 1-0. Middleburg won the game 1-0. And then in their next game in the state championship, Middleburg had 1 hit. It was a home run, and they won 1-0. So,
wow.
Middleburg, another team that we'll consider, as far as our top teams in softball. But we'll have those rankings at the PrepZone.com along with our final baseball rankings over the next couple of days. And then at MainStreetDailyNews.com, I'm always writing stuff. I mentioned the article about the former Gators joining the Newberry staff. We've got our all-area baseball and softball teams that we just discussed. That's going to be coming out the week of the 13th. So MainStreetDailyNews.com, I think you'll find more articles. The PrepZone.com is kind of where we put a lot of our broadcast links and so forth, and then our regional rankings that we do as well.
Good stuff as always, my man. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon, Mike.
All right, Shane. Thanks again, and again, happy birthday to you, man.
I appreciate it. That's Mike Ridaught, who does a tremendous job covering high school sports. We're going to take our final time out, come back, wrap up this Thursday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, Aikido America, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera & Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Ice Fish Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Hey, folks, are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Doreen Weavy, a realtor with Caldwell Banker M. Parrish, will provide you with the fast, friendly, and reliable service. Call her today, 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. I want to thank Brent Beaird and Mike Ridaught for joining us on the Titan More Hotline. Let's get to This Day in Sports, brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Beat the summer heat and schedule your air conditioner's tune-up today, keeping you chill in the Florida heat far away. Comfort Tip Heating and Air. Call us today, 352-376-2366. This Day in Sports, back in 1987, the Seattle Mariners draft Ken Griffey Jr. as the #1 overall pick, and he turned out to be a pretty good player. That's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. John says, love having Mike on, even though he doesn't cover my area. He still has great info. Yeah, he does a tremendous job. Been doing it a long, long time. Tonight, NBA Finals crank up. If you missed it last night, the New York Rangers beat the Tampa Bay Lightning to go up 1-0 in that series. Celtics Warriors tonight. Gators softball. Actually, the World Series starts at noon today. If you are bored sitting around, you can watch a ton of softball. 4 games today. Gators in Oregon State at 7 o'clock this evening. Make sure you tell all your friends and family to like and follow our programs on not only on Facebook Live, but YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any platform out there. The more the merrier. Dan says he'll be in OKC. Wish I was going to be there, Dan. It's a tremendous atmosphere there. I think the Gators win today. I think they'll play Oklahoma State in their next game. So wish Tim Walton and all the girls a lot of luck today. Think they'll play well this evening. Hope you enjoyed today's program, folks. Be safe out there, and we will see you tomorrow.